What's a cool fact about dinosaurs you know? There was an ultra-rare skeleton of a dinosaur called Spinosaurus that was the only one of its kind not complete, but only evidence of it, and it got destroyed during World War II when bombs fell on the museum in Germany. Only recently another intact skeleton has been found in North Africa, which was more complete and gave some clues about where it lived and how it got so big it was bigger than a T-Rex. Didn't they recently determine that T-Rex was actually bigger than Spinosaurus? I think I heard that somewhere. Or maybe I'm still just pissed that it killed a T-Rex in Jurassic Park 3, which the experts said would never happen. Depends how you define bigger. It's longer than Rex. But due to the discoveries of it living most of its life in water, its legs were actually as long as its arms. So, not tall lol. Recently Spinosaurus was discovered to have a tadpole-like tail. It has been known for a while that it was mostly an aquatic animal, even Jurassic Park 3 showed that, but it was always depicted with the standard lizard-like dinosaur tail. Recently new fossils have emerged that show that the creature had a tail like that of a tadpole, suggesting that it spent much more time in water than previously thought. Whoa, that's wild. Do you have a source? Spinosaurus is my favorite dinosaur and this is the first time I'm hearing about it. It was not, however, a water pursuit predator, as detailed by the paper The Ecology of Spinosaurus, Evaluating the Ecology of Spinosaurus, Shoreline Generalist or Aquatic Pursuit Specialist, by Hone and Holtz. I've actually spoken with Hone. It is in fact more evident that Spinosaurus was incapable of pursuing animals underwater as do crocodiles, and more evidence based on their morphology points towards it being a wader, like a heron, sitting and waiting for fish to pass by and snapping at them. This tadpole tail could therefore be attributed to sexual displays or something we don't know of yet. If you're interested, I recommend reading the paper, it's interesting. They were around for longer than they've been extinct, which means that there were dinosaur fossils when dinosaurs existed. I imagine it would have been pretty cool if dinosaur archaeologists existed, but I guess since it would be pretty weird to dig through skeletons of their own kind, maybe a cemetery would be more likely. Wow, that's a brain bender. It's crazy to imagine these guys running around Earth for so long. The Amish don't believe in dinosaurs. Wait, is that a joke or for real? I was raised Christian and can confirm some sects of Christianity do not believe in them either. They are believed to be fake because dinosaurs to them doesn't match their timeline and disproves the idea of creationism and the age of the Earth. Raptors couldn't walk around with its hands hanging palm down like most toys and movies show. Their bone structure wouldn't allow it. They had to keep their palms facing each other. They knew they had to do it to M. I swear on my life, the Protoceratops was about yay big. Scientists have studied the nasal and throat structure of the Tyrannosaurus rex, and as it turns out it was completely incapable of vocalizing a roar like those seen in movies, rather they would have made deep growling noises similar to alligators. Honestly, I think that's more terrifying than a roar, cause if you were able to hear the low growling, it would be too late to run. This conclusion is based on phylogeny, not an actual structural find in Tyrannosaurus, since crocodilians and the most primitive living birds, ratites, make deep booming or bellowing sounds. It's probable that dinosaurs lacking some special hard tissue sound making structure, Lamasauri and hadrosaurs, made similar sounds. This goes for everything, not just T-Rex. If they made vocalizations at all. Velociraptors are a lot smaller than depicted in movies. An actual velociraptor was more like a turkey with attitude, around the size of a Thanksgiving roaster with feathers, teeth, and claws. The raptors in Jurassic Park are more similar to a related dinosaur, Deinonychus. There was a study done a few years ago where scientists grew chicken embryos that had dinosaur faces, a rounded snout and teeth instead of a beak. They did this by altering gene expression in the developing embryos, so the snouts came out looking more like an alligator's than a traditional bird's. Also, birds actually existed at the same time as dinosaurs. Archaeopteryx was a Jurassic dinosaur, so the evolution of birds began long before velociraptors and T. Rex were walking the earth. Finally, there's a weird bird in the Amazon called the Watsine, and it's notable because the chicks have two claws on their wings. These allow the chicks to climb trees until their wings are strong enough for actual flight. By adulthood the claws disappear. These birds are the last surviving members of a bird line that branched off from other avian species 64 million years ago, just after the non-avian dinosaurs were wiped out. They're basically just really weird dinosaur birds that are very stinky and of gross tasting meat because they have a weird digestive tract. Are there any pics of those weird chicken gators? Link to the chicken dinosaur source? That seems super cool. The word dinosaur means terrible lizard. Since the coining of the name it has been determined that they are not lizards. The name still fits though, because they make for terrible lizards. I also read that terrible meant more like impressive, not horrible. Give me one word, any word, and I show you how the root of that word is Greek. Cartoonist Gary Larson named a dinosaur part. In one of his strips, a caveman scientist described the spikes on a stegosaurus tail as the thagomizer, named after the late Thag Simmons. Real-life paleontologists realized this part had no name, so they started calling it the thagomizer. T-Rex was actually really tough. Some skeletons have been found with major injuries that show evidence of years' worth of healing. A skeleton named Stan in particular had a hole in his skull, and he may have lived up to a decade after having his skull punctured if the bone healing is any indication. Just like Sue, one of the largest female T-Rex skeletons we have. One of her femurs is gigantic and misshapen due to an infection. She had a dead, hanging arm due to a torn bicep, had broken ribs on both sides of her chest, broken at 2 different times based on research how they healed, and had holes in her jaw due to germs. Her skeleton was difficult to put up because her tailbones were fused together due to arthritis. These animals ran on pure hatred, which undoubtedly fueled their survival drive. However, the severity of T-Rex injuries which they survived hints that they could have lived in pairs or small groups, and they actually cared for each other, ensuring their survival. They were long considered to be solitary hunters that would rather feast on dead carcasses than hunt, but their injuries seem to point to the fact that they were active hunters. 15 years ago a family of 6 Tyrannosaurides ranging from juvenile to adult was found in a mass grave, suggesting they died together as a family. Even more interesting, a lot of the skull punctures in T-Rex skulls match up with bite marks from other Rexes. These multi-ton predators fought by biting each other's faces with enough strength to puncture bone, and did it regularly enough to be fairly present in the record. Tyrannosaurus rex and Stegosaurus were evidently never on the planet together, separated by millions of years. Macron__/Macron fake news museums will have you believe otherwise with their standard fight scenes. Wasn't there something that the humans were closer to the T-Rex than the Stegosaurus was? Might be wrong, but I imagined I heard that once. Not to brag, but my museum has the proper predator to display devouring a Stegosaurus. The Allosaurus. There's a dinosaur that was discovered in Australia near a Qantas airport, so they named it Qantasaurus. What's a Qantas airport? Qantas doesn't own any airports, they are an airline. The spiky tail on a Stegosaurus is called a thagomizer. From the Gary Larson cartoon. After the late Thag Simmons, R.I.P. The Far Side is amazing. Here's a fun movie trivia fact from a famous dinosaur movie. Do you remember in Jurassic Park the mosquito stuck in the amber where they supposedly got the DNA from? Well, that is an elephant mosquito, the only mosquito that doesn't suck blood, so it couldn't possibly contain any dinosaur DNA. Lol, they picked the only mosquito that doesn't suck blood out of the rest of them. That's tough. Dinosaurs such as T-Rex could produce infrasonic waves. You'd basically feel in your spine. How the hell could scientists figure this out by looking at calcium sticks? Is this similar to what tigers, lions, elephants, and hippos, among others, do? When the T-Rex attacks the kids in the Jeep, the glass was supposed to break. Instead, the entire pane fell on the kids as a 1,000-pound animatronic pushed it down on them. Their screams of terror in that scene are real. That's fair. So iconic that the name of the film doesn't even have to be said. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.